You know, one of the big challenges we have in Africa is the currency risk. We pay for our goods and services in local currency, which is the currency in which we earn our living. However, many of these projects are financed in foreign denominated currency, which creates a mismatch. And with the current situation we've experienced with foreign exchange volatility, it really creates a credit risk and sustainability question. Innovation in finance will come from looking at how we can de-risk projects by financing many of these projects, leveraging our local pensions, local insurance, essentially the local domestic resources that are long-term and can match the life cycle of these projects that actually do operate for 10, 20, 15 years as opposed to 5-year financing. And the role infracredit plays is essentially helping to actually implement this model successfully in Nigeria, and it can be replicated in other African countries. So essentially, innovation will come, and it's already happening, in helping to strengthen our domestic capital markets where we can issue long-term bonds and utilize a large portion of our sovereign wealth funds, our pension funds, our insurance assets that AfDB estimates is roughly around $2.5 trillion to finance development in Africa. And that will play a significant de-risking role to drive accelerated development and sustainability. PPPs are essential, they're critical. It's one way of aligning the interests of the public and the private sector, and also leveraging the strengths and allocating risk across these counterparties. Governments have bold ambitions, but it will be moderated with viability and sustainability, and that is where private resource and private capital comes in. And we've been able to work closely with projects that have been developed by the government, but also outsourced to the private sector. And the private sector comes with managerial expertise, access to capital, but also more importantly, helping to drive revenue sustainability for these projects. So PPPs are very critical, and increasingly we talk about PPPs with another P, which is how do we even bring in blended finance from philanthropic capital for very sensitive and impactful projects that require some form of blended finance. So increasingly we're seeing how these models are a driver of innovation with the right sources of capital in the stack. So this forum is very important because it brings different stakeholders together, and we can exchange ideas, learn, and also be able to take new lessons that we can take back to our respective markets and implement. It's really around continuity of engagement, but also ensuring that we are able to borrow and replicate what works for Africans. So increasingly we have seen examples of models that have worked and haven't worked. So we now know what increasingly can work for us, and how do we take these examples and begin to replicate at scale. I think this is one of the very important outcomes I hope to get out of this engagement.